I hadn't missed a single birthday, recital, or doctor visit for my grandkids. Then one day, I got a message, "We need space. Don't come around unless invited." My son said, "It's what's best for the kids." I spent that Christmas alone. But the next time they reached out, needing help, what I said on that call left them in tears before I even. I'm Martha. I'm 63. I live alone in Galesburg, Illinois, in the same house my husband and I bought back in '89. He passed away in 2007, cancer. And after that, it was just me and my son, Tyler. I did everything for him. Always tried to be the kind of mom I never had growing up. Tyler was a quiet kid. Smart. Kind. A little reserved. We were close. When he got into college, I cried for a week after he moved out. But I was proud. I thought I did everything right. He met Justine in his last year of college. She was polite, smiley, said all the right things. But even back then, I had a strange feeling. Not because I didn't like her. She was fine, but because she was always measured. Like she was performing. Still, I kept it to myself. When he told me he was going to propose, I smiled and told him I was happy. I helped pay for the wedding. Not because I had money to throw around, but because I wanted to make things easier for them. When they had kids, Emma first, then Danny, I was over the moon. I retired early just so I could help out more. I was there for every birthday, every school play, every ER visit. I kept a bag in the car at all times, just in case they called and needed me. I wasn't just grandma. I was part of their lives. That's why what happened last year hit like a train. It started with little things. Justine would say stuff like, "They're too hyper when they come back from your place," or, "I think we need to keep their routines tighter." I thought it was normal parenting talk. I mean, I was a mom too. I knew what it was like. But then she started texting me less. I used to get updates and pictures every day. Then it was once a week. Then nothing. Tyler stopped calling. I figured they were just busy. I didn't push. I didn't want to be that mom who nags or guilt trips. But then Thanksgiving came around. I texted asking what time I should come. No reply. A few hours later, I got a message. Not from Tyler. From Justine. "We need some space. Please don't come around unless you're invited. It's what's best for the kids." I just stared at it. I didn't know what to say. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she meant to send it to someone else. Then Tyler called. I was relieved at first. Thought maybe he was going to clear it up. But no. He repeated the same thing. Almost word for word. "We just need some boundaries. It's what's best for the kids." I asked him what that meant. What had I done? Did I upset Emma or Danny? Did I say something wrong? He just said, "It's not personal, Mom. We just need a little space right now." Then he hung up. That was it. I didn't go to their house for Thanksgiving. I didn't get invited for Christmas. I dropped off the gifts I'd already wrapped and left them on the porch. No one came out. No one texted thank you. I sat in my living room on Christmas Eve with the TV on mute, watching families on the screen laugh and open presents. I'd bought Emma a new ballet dress, and Danny a toy dinosaur set he'd been asking about since summer. I never found out if they liked them. I cried. I'm not ashamed to say that. I cried so hard that night I couldn't breathe. I kept trying to think back. What had I done? I never yelled at the kids. I never overstepped. I followed their rules. I never brought up politics or religion or anything touchy. I just showed up and loved them. I called Tyler once a week after that. Left voicemails. Just checking in. Hope you're all okay. Let me know if you need anything. Never heard back. Then June came. It was a Thursday. I was weeding the backyard when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I picked up and heard Tyler's voice. Shaky. Tired. Hey, Mom. I froze. I hadn't heard his voice in months. Justine's in the hospital, he said. It's nothing life-threatening, but it's serious. I've got no one to help with the kids. I was wondering if you could come by, just for a few days. I didn't say anything right away. He kept talking. Please, I know we've been distant, but this is hard. I'm drowning over here. I just listened. He said, You're their grandma. They miss you. And that's when I spoke. You told me not to come around unless I was invited. He got quiet. I spent the holidays alone, Tyler. Alone. After everything I've done for you. After everything I've done for those kids. He tried to say something. Mom, I didn't mean for it to go that far, but I cut him off. My voice was shaking. Not from sadness. From anger I hadn't let myself feel. You made your choice. You and Justine. I was good enough to raise them, to take them to appointments, to buy them shoes and coats. But now? Now I'm good enough again because you're desperate? He said, I'm sorry. I said, so am I. But not for saying no. Then I hung up. He called again. 3 times. Then I got a message from Justine. Said she didn't know what Tyler told me, but they really needed family right now. I didn't reply. I made dinner. I opened a bottle of wine. I turned my phone off. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like crying. A week went by after that phone call. I didn't hear anything. No missed calls. No texts. I started to think maybe that was the end of it, that they'd finally realized I wasn't going to be walked over anymore. Then, out of nowhere, Emma showed up at my door. She's only 9, but she looked older somehow. Sadder. I opened the door, shocked. Emma? Where's your dad? She pointed to the curb. Tyler was sitting in his car, engine running. Didn't even come to the door. She handed me an envelope and said, Daddy told me to give you this. I bent down and looked her in the eyes. Do you want to come in, sweetheart? She hesitated. Looked back at the car. I stood and waved at Tyler. He just stared straight ahead. Didn't wave back. Emma shook her head. He said I can't. So I just gave her a hug. Tell your dad I got the letter. I watched as she ran back to the car. Tyler didn't even roll down the window. He just drove off. The letter was handwritten. From Justine. It was long. 2 pages. Full of soft words that meant nothing. She said she was sorry things had gotten tense. That maybe they hadn't handled things well. That they still valued me. But the part that hit the hardest was this line, we were just trying to create a more peaceful, structured home, and sometimes that meant limiting outside influences, even if those influences were well-meaning. Outside influence. That's what I was to them now. She finished the letter with, we hope you'll consider moving forward in a way that works for everyone. No apology for cutting me off. No explanation for the months of silence. Just vague language and fake concern. I didn't respond. I wanted to scream. Not because I was angry at the letter, but because I knew what was really happening. Justine never liked how close I was to the kids. She didn't like that I had a bond with them that she didn't control. And Tyler? He just went along with it. Maybe because he's weak. Maybe because it was easier. But they made one mistake. They taught those kids that I was always there. That I showed up every time. That I loved them without question. So when they tried to erase me, the kids noticed. A month after the letter, I got a call from the school. It was Emma's teacher. Mrs. Benning. We'd met at a couple school functions before. She said, "I don't want to overstep, but Emma listed you as her emergency contact." No one else picked up, and she insisted we call you. I was already grabbing my keys. "What happened?" "She's okay," the teacher said. "Just a rough day. Got into a fight with another girl and had a bit of a meltdown. She asked for you." When I got to the school, Emma ran into my arms like it had been years, not months. On the drive home, she asked if I could just take her to my place, like before. I told her I had to check with her parents. She looked out the window and said, "Mom says you don't like us anymore." That broke something in me. I pulled the car over and turned toward her. "Emma, that is not true. I love you so much it hurts. I wasn't allowed to be around. But I never stopped loving you. Not for a second." She started to cry. "Can't we just go back to how it used to be?" I didn't know how to answer. Later that night, after dropping her off, I got another call from Tyler. This time, he was angry. "Why didn't you call us first? You had no right to pick her up without permission." I snapped. "I was the emergency contact, Tyler. She asked for me. You weren't there. And you don't get to act like a parent when it's convenient." He yelled, "You're poisoning her against us." That was when something in me cracked wide open. "No, Tyler. You and your wife did that yourselves." I kept quiet. I stayed away. "I respected your space. But your daughter is smart. She knows love when she sees it. And she knows when it's missing." He hung up. The next day, CPS showed up at my door. A woman named Carla. She said she had to follow up on a report. "Neglect concerns," she said. Something about unauthorized contact with the child. She was polite but firm. I asked her straight, "Did Justine file this?" She couldn't confirm. But her face told me everything. They were trying to paint me as a problem. They were trying to scare me. But they made one more mistake. They thought I'd just take it. They forgot who raised that man. Who stayed up nights when he had fevers. Who held his hand when he cried after his dad died. They forgot that I spent my whole life taking care of people who didn't return the favor. But I was done being quiet. I was done waiting for permission. After CPS left, I sat on my porch swing for a long time. Just staring out at the street. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel scared. What I felt was cold. Solid. Like something in me had hardened. I wasn't going to let them destroy what I had left. Especially not my bond with those kids. That night, I called a lawyer. His name was Evan Lasky. I'd met him years ago at church when he handled probate after my husband passed. Honest guy. I asked him about grandparents' rights in Illinois. I told him everything. The messages. The cutoff. The sudden reappearance when they needed help. The CPS visit. He was quiet for a second, then said, "We've got options, Martha. But it's gonna rattle some cages." I said, "Good." A week later, Evan filed a formal petition for grandparent visitation rights. Not full custody. Not anything aggressive. Just legally protected time with Emma and Danny. Weekends. Holidays. Summer breaks. Structured. Court-ordered. Tyler was served the papers at work. 3 days after that, Justine sent me a long, rambling voicemail about how disappointed she was. How she thought we were trying to mend things. She used words like legal aggression and emotional manipulation. But what stood out most was when she said, "If you think this won't affect your relationship with the kids, you're mistaken." I saved that voicemail. While the court process began, Emma kept sneaking me little letters. One was hidden in the pocket of a coat I bought her 2 years ago. Another came taped to a library book they returned to me, even though they never acknowledged it was mine. One note said, "I miss you. I don't understand what's going on. Mommy gets mad when I ask about you. Daddy just says, not now." Another said, "Danny cries at night. He asked if you stopped loving us. I told him no. I know you didn't." I showed both to Evan. He shook his head. "This isn't just sad anymore. This is damaging." Then we got our first court date. Justine didn't show. Tyler did. He sat there with his jaw clenched, looking at me like I was a stranger. He brought some lawyer from a firm in Peoria. Young, smug, aggressive. They tried to argue that I was unstable, that my involvement had created emotional confusion for the kids, that I had boundary issues. They even brought up the CPS visit, even though no investigation had moved forward. But Evan stood up with documents, messages, character letters from my friends, my pastor, even Emma's teacher. And then he played the voicemail from Justine. The judge narrowed her eyes when she heard that last part. Especially the line, "If you think this won't affect your relationship with the kids, you're mistaken." That hearing didn't end things, but the judge did say she was deeply concerned by the evidence of emotional manipulation and parental gatekeeping. We had another hearing set. That weekend, something strange happened. Justine's sister, Melissa, showed up at my house. I barely knew her, but we'd spoken at a few family gatherings. She looked nervous. Said she couldn't stay long. She told me, "I don't want to be involved, but I thought you should know. Justine's been telling the kids you abandoned them." I stared at her. "What?" "She says you didn't want to see them anymore. That you were too tired. Or too busy. Or that you were mad at them." I felt like I couldn't breathe. She added, "Emma started acting out at school. Got detention for the first time last week. Danny won't eat dinner unless he's sitting with your old photo." I sat down at the kitchen table. Melissa reached into her purse and slid a USB stick across the table. She asked me to help her back up her phone last year. I saw some stuff. Voice memos. Deleted texts. You might want to listen. I stared at that little drive like it was a bomb. Later that night, I plugged it into my laptop. There were screenshots. Texts Justine had sent to friends. "Honestly, I don't care if Martha never comes around again. That woman's way too attached to my kids. It's unhealthy. I wish Tyler would grow a spine and finally cut her out." There were memos, too. One where she was clearly ranting in her car. She thinks she can just walk in and take over. My kids don't need two moms. She's always up in our business, always making herself the hero. I'm done pretending. It was all there. Proof that this wasn't about peace or boundaries. It was control. Resentment. Jealousy. She wanted me out because I made her feel small. I sent the files to Evan the next morning. He didn't even write back. He just called and said, "We're going to end this. All of it." The next court hearing is coming up in 2 weeks. But something tells me this isn't over. Because Justine? She's starting to panic. I can feel it. Tyler doesn't look so sure anymore either. The cracks are showing. They thought I was weak. That I'd fade out quietly. They were wrong. The final court hearing was scheduled for a Monday morning at 9 a.m. I didn't sleep the night before. I sat at my kitchen table drinking cold coffee and going through everything again, every message, every letter, every silent birthday I spent staring at the wall. I wasn't nervous. I was ready. More ready than I'd ever been in my life. Tyler and Justine walked into the courtroom together. For once, Justine didn't have that smug look on her face. She looked worn. Like someone who'd been fighting ghosts and was finally starting to realize they were real. Emma and Danny weren't there. The judge had ordered they be kept out of it. My lawyer, Evan, stood and presented everything. Calm. Steady. He laid out the timeline, from the moment they sent me that cold message to the CPS visit, to the evidence we found on the USB drive. Then he dropped the bomb. We have reason to believe, he said, that Justine intentionally manipulated her children into believing they were abandoned by their grandmother. That she acted out of jealousy and insecurity. And that these actions have caused lasting emotional damage to the children. He played clips from the voice memos. Justine's words echoed in that quiet room, she's always trying to be the hero. I don't care if she never comes around again. Then he showed the texts. The judge sat silently for a long time. Then she asked Justine if she had anything to say. Justine tried to spin it. I was venting. I was overwhelmed. Every mom has moments. This has been taken out of context. But the judge wasn't buying it. She looked at Tyler. And you? Do you believe your children are better off without their grandmother? He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. He opened his mouth to speak, then just shook his head. I don't know anymore, he said quietly. That was the turning point. The judge ruled in my favor. I was granted structured, court-protected visitation every other weekend, alternating holidays, and 2 full weeks in the summer. Tyler and Justine were ordered to attend family counseling. The judge warned them that if any interference or manipulation continued, custody arrangements could be revisited, including supervised parenting time. It was everything I'd asked for. And more. But that wasn't the end. About a month later, I picked up Emma and Danny for their first court-ordered weekend. They came running down the front steps like their shoes were on fire. Emma clung to me so hard I thought she'd never let go. Danny cried the whole way to my house. Not because he was sad. Because he was relieved. That first night, we baked cookies. Watched old movies. I sat on the couch with one kid on each side of me, holding my hands. They wouldn't stop asking questions. Why did Mommy say you were mad at us? Did you really not want to see us anymore? Why didn't Daddy tell us the truth? I answered every single one. Carefully. Honestly. I didn't badmouth their parents. But I told them I always loved them. That I never left them. That I fought to see them again. Emma looked at me and said, I knew it. I told Danny you would never leave us. Now here's where things truly turn. A few weeks into the new arrangement, Tyler showed up alone to pick up the kids. Justine wasn't in the car. He asked if he could come in. I let him. We sat at the kitchen table, same place I sat the night I listened to that USB drive, and he said, I messed up. I let her control too much. I should have stood up to her. I didn't say anything. I just listened. Then he said, she left. Moved back in with her sister. Says she needs space. Doesn't know if she's coming back. I just stared at him. He said, I think I lost everything. I finally spoke. No. You didn't lose everything. You just lost control of the lie you let grow. He cried. First time I'd seen him cry since his father's funeral. In the months that followed, everything shifted. Justine tried to push back. Tried to call the judge biased, tried to challenge the visitation again, but nothing stuck. The court had seen too much. Her voice was everywhere. Her manipulation was exposed. Her parenting was now under scrutiny. Emma started therapy. Danny stopped wetting the bed. Slowly, the damage they'd done started to heal. And Tyler? He's trying. I told him it's going to take time. I'm not going to forget how easily he threw me aside. But I'm not shutting him out, not for the kids. For them, I'll leave that door cracked. But I don't smile the way I used to around him. The final twist? Justine called me. It was a few days after Christmas, my first Christmas with the grandkids back in my house, decorating the tree like nothing had ever changed. She said, I want to apologize. I handled things badly. I didn't say much. Then she said, I need help. I'm struggling. I don't have anyone right now. That's when I realized this wasn't about the kids. This was about her. It always had been. So I said, I hope you find the support you need, Justine. But I'm not it. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just hung up. People say revenge is messy. That it eats you up. But this? This wasn't revenge. This was truth. This was standing my ground. This was showing my grandkids that love doesn't walk away, even when it's pushed out the door. Justine lost everything she tried to control. Tyler lost the version of his mother who stayed silent. And me? I got my family back. But I also got something else, something I never expected. I got peace. And this time I'm not giving it up. Not for anyone.